South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai-Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Sports by the book.
Sports by the book.
Sports by the book. Sports by the book, South Point Studio.
This is the best sports betting network.
I would argue it is a total mismatch.
There's value with underdog prices in series.
I would lean to the under here.
My numbers are saying I got to bet the Tigers.
Two-way action.
When in doubt, we juice that favorite, that extra nickel.
Sports by the book, South Point Studio.
Forget about it. The best.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Good morning. Welcome in. It is Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. She is Alex White. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm here. That's all that matters, right? That we're both here. It's a Monday. We'll have Duane Colucci in a few moments. Danny Burke checks in for the first time in 2 months with us as well. It's going better than everyone in Toronto for both of us here today. Just another one in the long line of epically public failings for the Toronto Maple Leafs yet again. But we'll have series prices, Alex, for both the NHL and the NBA. We have no games today. It's just conference finals that will be coming starting tomorrow. Eastern Conference Finals in the NHL, Western Conference Finals in the NBA. And then we have a lot of baseball to get to here on this Monday as well.
Pretty crazy for NHL. First time ever in all four major sports that all four teams with the best records lost in the same round. And that kind of hurt both of our brackets because we did have a lot of those teams going, Toronto, Vegas. So it'll be interesting. I think we have two really good matchups there. Of course, a rematch for Dallas and Edmonton, but then it'll be nice to see the Canes and see what they can do in this round.
Opt the stats, of course, on that. The three in Edmonton, and then the three with Toronto, and then the twos in the Metro and the Central getting through. We'll plenty to get to on that. Also, the Maple Leafs made some more dubious history. Look, they have plenty of dubious history right now, the Leafs, to say the very least. Toronto's made the playoffs 9 straight years. They failed to make the semifinal round or conference final round in any of them. That ties the Kings for the second longest streak in NHL playoff history, only behind the Blues, who did it for 14 consecutive postseason appearances from 87 to 2000 before making a Western Conference final. It's also been 57 years since the Maple Leafs had made the Stanley Cup final. That is 10 seasons longer than the St. Louis Blues, who had the drought until they won their Stanley Cup in 2019 against the Boston Bruins. It's the only Stanley Cup final championship for St. Louis. Yeah, it's not good if you're Toronto. Well, series prices, and I will say this, even though I think the series prices are both right in the NHL, I'm a little bit floored on what the Eastern Conference price came, which we'll get to in a few moments, because we're going to take the shortest of breaks to make sure that Duane hears us and we hear Duane. Duane's going to join us next. We'll get all of our thoughts from the weekend as well when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Welcome back in at Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Jeff Parles, Alex White. And now joining us, you cannot mistake this gentleman's voice. You hear him every Monday here on Sports by the Book. You heard him last Friday. It's our good friend Duane Colucci up at the Rampart, Race and Sportsbook Director at White Bookie Duane on the tweets. Good morning, Duane.
Good morning, guys. You can hear me complaining about my trials and tribulations on Black Eyed Susan and Preakness Day, but it is what it is.
I will tell you, just real quick, to put a bow on what we saw in Baltimore, the final time for this current version of Pimlico before next year the Preakness is at Laurel Park, which is kind of amazing if you know that racetrack, in all honesty. But Duane, a hell of a run by journalism. I mean, the fact that he was able to get through the mess, also the fact, I will say, a little bit salty, Maximum Security did a hell of a lot less in 2019 than what happened in that traffic at the Preakness over the weekend. But unbelievable chase down at the end by the favorite to get on the board and the Triple Crown winner here with the Preakness for journalism.
Yeah, it was a great run. It was a rough run race, without a doubt, like you said. And Max did a lot less than Umberto Rispoli, in my opinion. There's all finger pointing now. There's 50-50 people that think Flavien Prat was at fault. And I'm hearing something about a 15-day possible suspension. And then you're hearing about Rispoli and his riding tactics. Now, being around a racetrack my whole life, guys, it was Rispoli who created the hole. There was no hole to go there, and he put the horse in risk and danger. Flavien Prat is just doing what every race rider. Let me tell you something right now. If it was Irad Ortiz who pinned Umberto Rispoli, they'd be looking to ban him for a year because he does that, consistently. It's good race riding. It's physical race riding. And, now with Hisa and all the PETA, stuff going out, we have to be a little more strict. But, Rispoli, he created the hole. I don't think anybody should get any suspension. If anything, the risk factor that Rispoli put journalism in the position to possibly fall or whatever is what's the prominent issue here. Thank God the horse comes out of it, came flying home. What an incredible finish, but also keep in mind, who was he beating in this particular race? I mean, outside of Sandman, who was really proven. I took my chances. You had a lot of horses coming out of allowance victories, maiden victories, lower class race victories. We're going to see really what this horse is made of when he runs at Saratoga, 1.25 miles. Let's see what Baeza brings to the table. And of course, Sovereignty. He's going to be there. Those are the horses that once journalism finishes in front of them again, then we could bona fide him as the top 3-year-old in the country. Maybe go on, if he likes Saratoga, he's definitely going to run the Travers. So, great credit to Mike McCarthy and journalism. Rispoli, he put the horse in a tough position. He could have tipped him out a lot earlier, Jeff. You could see the way that race was run. That was a small field. He did not have to stay pinned on the rail and keep saving ground and saving ground and saving ground until there's no hole to come out of. So definitely Rispoli was at fault there. He's a great turf rider. I don't like him too much on the dirt, though. He's very suspect in his judgment.
Duane, let's go to hockey first. Even though I was premature in pronouncing the Leafs done, I ended up being correct with how poorly it went yesterday. But it sets up now an Eastern Conference final that begins tomorrow, Duane. That is, look, out of the Deep South, a rematch of what we saw a year ago, where Florida really stomped through Carolina. Now Carolina home ice here. I'm a little bit surprised that Carolina came a dog here. I do think Florida should have been favored, but I was surprised with how everything has come up. -30 in the series on Florida, +10 on Carolina, with a right to go to the Stanley Cup final on the line.
Huge series, great series, what we wanted to see basically coming into these NHL playoffs from the Eastern Conference. You know why the Panthers are the favorite, Jeff. I know you're a little shocked. It is home ice for Carolina, but you see when they flex, it's unbelievable. It's 6 goals. The other team is doing nothing, screaming at each other on the bench. Getting back to the horse racing, it's like a day at the races there, the Three Stooges with the Marx Brothers or the Three Stooges dangling the carrot. Toronto does that to their fans every year. And, like you said, they were done. They come back. They play an awesome game, shut down the world champions. And then all of a sudden, there's last night. Now, I would definitely, I saw you have the little graphic. I love it. Sports by the book with the, you have to trade Matthews when you're looking at that vote. You got to trade Matthews. You got to, change something here. Something has to change. It's not the head coach, without a doubt. You definitely have to rectify something. Maybe get rid of Marner. I mean, Marner it was a little too late. You want to start screaming at guys in Game 7 when it's 3-0. Well, where was that in the locker room in the prior games? I mean, they're very vanilla in their their approach. And, I'm also hearing other shows, you have Kachuk was on one of them other shows, and he's like, oh, well, it's the Toronto media. Oh, please stop. Montreal is the big media place. And New York, we know that. That's where the media could really destroy you. I know Toronto's a great hockey city, but they haven't won in 50 years. Why do we keep saying, oh, this is a great hockey town, great team, great franchise? No, it's not. It fails every year. They were actually relying on a Montreal Canadian and a Vegas night throwback, Max Pacioretty, to get them going, which, great for Max. He really stepped up. He played great in that series, but you can't rely on these guys. I mean, Max Pacioretty's at the end of his career. Where were Marner? Where was Matthews? Where was Nylander? Where are these guys? What are they doing? The goaltending is horrible. They never get a good goaltender between the pipes there. I think the last good goaltender they had was probably Felix Potvin. You're going back 25 years with that. So, it's a nightmare scenario. They're going to have to implode that team. Florida is the best team. Let's see what Carolina could do, though. Now, they're starting to play good, but it was kind of an easy series, in my opinion. Washington brought nothing to the table. They never stepped it up. Very similar to Toronto. Toronto actually stepped it up a little more than Washington, in my opinion, in those 2 Eastern Conference play-ins to the final here. Very difficult series. I like the Panthers, though. You know where I'm going to hang my hat. I believe they're the favorite for the right reasons, but they are playing on the road. Keep this in mind. You have some great players there on this Hurricane team, and you do have great goaltending. Anderson has been fabulous at times, and you have guys like Aho and all these other players that can really mix it up. So this is going to be a physical series. This guy could easily see this going 6 or 7 games as well, just like the Toronto series. But I'm favoring the Panthers slightly. I think they're going to make a return run to the Cup. You may even see a rematch of last year.
Duane, I don't appreciate the Curtis Joseph removal there on the Maple Leafs goalies.
Well, I always think Cujo was blue. I always make Cujo synonymous with the St. Louis Blues.
That's fair
was
enough.
Always my feeling. Fair Cujo was the Blues guy. So, he was a great goaltender, don't get me wrong. But I mean, for longevity, a guy that's been between the pipes for 5 to 10 years, Felix Potvin was probably the best goalie they had. I mean, so, they have to get goaltending help. They have to get some other help to support the defense. And we'll see how it goes from there.
What are you thinking for the Western Conference Finals here? Rematch, Dallas, Edmonton. Now, we know the Stars have the best goalie in this matchup. We don't know if it's going to be Skinner or Pickard just yet, but, I mean, this Oilers team definitely looks hungry, who failed to win it last year and lost to those Panthers.
Yeah, they would be stupid, Alex, to go back to Pickard now. I think that definitely now you have to stick with Stuart Skinner. He once again, it's like the same formula that they used last year, and he's hot again. So, when you shut down the Vegas Golden Knights for 7 straight periods, Alex, you have to stick with this guy. I think Edmonton might have the right formula. Dallas, they have trouble winning on the road. Thank God they have the home ice in this series. So it's difficult to gauge. if Dallas could win on the road. That's the whole key. You saw 140 minutes by Hellebuck without a goal at home. So Dallas has to definitely rectify that. And this is another series where, the road team is the favorite, and rightfully so. Edmonton is playing at a great level now. Once they dominated the Vegas Golden Knights, I have to start giving them some credit after bashing them for how many years, guys. You know I hate this Edmonton team, but they're really playing well now. And, they got some great role play. It just wasn't McDavid and Draisaitl. Kane definitely looked rejuvenated. Like we said, Skinner was playing well. Nugent Hopkins chipped in a little. They were roughhousing. They definitely took it right to the Vegas Golden Knights, were able to win the Fortress easily. This is a very, very tough team. But on the other hand, like you said, Alex, Jake Ottinger, if he gets really hot, he could shut down anything. This kid is a fabulous, fabulous goaltender and outdueled Connor Hellebuck. Definitely a credit and a definite a notch in the holster or in the belt for Jake Ottinger. They're getting great defensive play as well. This is going to be a physical series as well. I believe this could go 6 or 7 games. This is why we love the NHL playoffs, because it's so evenly matched. We have 4 of the best teams that are out there, and what we were looking forward to going into these playoffs. Dallas really stumbled in, and now look where they're at. Nobody would have thought, Alex, 8 losses in a row heading into the playoffs. Then they lost 9 in a row. They had to play Colorado. They beat all the top teams. Let's see if they can beat the Edmonton Oilers juggernaut. It's going to be a great series. I think Dallas has an excellent chance.
Duane, I'll just say this. I like both the favorites in this round. I expect a rematch, but you just pointed it out. If Stuart Skinner's going to play like this, and it's a whole unit, Edmonton's defense was incredible. Really, that whole series against Vegas, I have a hard time seeing Edmonton not hoisting the first Canadian Cup since your Canadiens did it in 1993. I think the streak is going to end here because of the Edmonton Oilers, Duane, entering the conference final round.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot on guys like Granlund, Duchesne. These guys have to put the puck in the net, and that definitely has to be a major factor. Harley played great in that last game. You've seen 1 goal, 1 assist. I think he was like plus 1 or 2 in that game as well. Definitely in the prior game, I should say. So he's been playing at a good level. They have to get more goal scoring, though. That's the whole key with Dallas. They have to move the puck around. They have to be able to play a very physical style and keep, those high goal scoring opportunities. They have to rectify that on Ottinger. They have to be able to be careful and not give up anything inside the circle, because that's where Draisaitl and McDavid will do their most damage, and Nugent Hopkins. So the whole thing is the key on the defense, and Ben and those guys, have to play very physical, and they could win this game.
Duane, let's go ahead and move to NBA here. I want to start with the West, Minnesota, OKC. Really good game yesterday from the Thunder to close it out against the Nuggets. Pretty much a blowout there. Now, huge favorite over this Timberwolves team, though. We're seeing at South Point minus 360. You can get 3-1 on the other side if you like the T-Wolves. You think that is warranted here, that big of a favorite?
That's huge, Alex. I'll tell you the truth. It's kind of bigger than I felt. It's great now that you're seeing, 3 out of 4 new teams. Indiana was there last year, but they're young and up and coming. So it's great to get some fresh blood in the NBA. I was so glad, to see this now, the younger teams get to the top and get to the cusp. I think Anthony Edwards definitely has a lot left in the tank. And if this kid could really start to play and match Shea, it's going to be a great, great series. But you saw what the Thunder could do. When you're beating a team like the Denver Nuggets, even though Gordon was banged up, by 40 points in a key game, that is a massive, massive victory. Hartenstein complements so well. You see why the Knicks found him so valuable, and it was tough to let him walk. He's a definite complementary player. They have so much of an inside game. They're very athletic. Timberwolves really have to bring their A game and play a little defense. You can't let this team score into the 120s and 130s. We know they have about 60 games of winning by 10 or more points now, including the playoffs. This is a massive, massive Thunder team. They were the favorites the whole year, and rightfully so. You see now they decapitated Denver, which was huge, beat the Joker, and really sent the message in that last game. Timberwolves, though, are young and very hungry. This is a good series. It looks a lot better on paper than 360, but the Thunder are going to be that favorite and that sizable favorite, and you're going to see big favorites when they're at home because of the fact that we just spoke about. you have 60-plus wins by 10 or more. They're a covering machine. They were thorn in bookmakers' sides the whole year. This is definitely going to be a good series, but I think OKC comes out.
I think Minnesota's live in this series, and we'll break it down a little more tomorrow. I just want to see how this market goes and see what the best price is, or even look to those conference finals MVP markets and maybe just take a piece of Anthony Edwards instead of Minnesota. To the other series, we're partying like it's 2000 again, Duane. Been a long time since the Knicks have been in the Eastern Conference Finals, and everyone, of course, remembers the miraculous run of the 8-seeded Knicks to make the finals in 1999. A lot of people don't remember the year after they got back to the East Final. Indiana beat them in 6. And now a chance 25 years later for the Knicks to get back to the finals for the first time since 99. They're minus 155, Indiana at plus 135. Look, the Pacers have won both of their series in 5 games. Very impressive throttling of both Milwaukee and Cleveland when it was all said and done. Duane, what are your thoughts here, and what is a really interesting series across the board of what all the endless possibilities here with the Knicks in Indiana?
Very difficult, I'll tell you. Like you said, they throttled Giannis. They throttled Donovan Mitchell. This team is very, very hungry. And let's stay classy, Knicks fans. I mean, the poor guy was a New York fireman that you're throwing trash at that had an Indiana Pacer jersey on. I mean, come on. Let's stay classy, guys. Let's rein it in, us Knicks fans. Let's not give a bad label. Knicks on the cusp here of the NBA Finals. I got to stop Halliburton, though. This kid is a monster when he gets hot, and he definitely loves to stick it, so very tough series. Knicks are the favorite, 155. Pacers beat us last year. It was a little different scenario, banged up. Randall didn't play. A lot of the roster was banged up for the Knicks. This is a new, improved New York Knicks team. Crowds are going to be off the hook. We got to send this message. I mean, it's been since the Reggie Miller days that these Pacers have been a thorn in our side. You got to stop these guys. You got to stop Naismith. You got to stop Turner. These guys are tough. They're playing at a top level. They're young. They have a chip on their shoulder. There's no pressure. The way I look at it in this series, all the pressure's on the New York Knicks. Bringing this franchise back to prominence is a top priority, definitely, for Brunson and the team. Towns has been playing very well. OG is a monster. Josh Hart, this kid does almost everything. And these guys all have to gel and step together. Mitchell Robinson even looked a little better. You seen, I made my little goofy statement, and the kid hit 6 straight foul shots. So, let's get it going here. The Knicks have a chance. Got to stop, though. Look at this roster. Siakam, Nembhard, Naismith, like we said, Turner. These guys are tough, and they got a solid bench. But, that's the whole key in this series. Whose bench will play better? The Knicks have a chance to, because they're not too deep, Indiana. They could play, a rotation of 8, 9, but you're starting to get thin then as it goes on. Knicks cannot run out of gas. They have to send a message, and this first game is a key. I like the Knicks in the first game. I think they're really going to come out and send a message. If they lose that game, though, then the pressure even doubles up. This is a very tough series, much tougher, in my opinion, than the West. I can't pick against my Knicks, but it's definitely it's troublesome playing the top Pacer team.
Duane, I do want to ask you, because I was looking at the regular season series, and the Knicks did take 2 of 3, and it looked like the Pacers really had a hard time slowing down Towns. So is that a player that we could try and find some player props even throughout this series?
Yeah, he's the focal point, Alex. That's why we went out and got him. I gave up DiVincenzo and Randall, and you see how good they're playing now. They're also in the conference finals. So it's a feel-good story on both sides. It was an equal trade. It was a good trade. A lot of Knicks fans were skeptical, but it's working out very well. And he is the X factor. They cannot stop him. He had some monster games. Definitely look for those over on the player props. You don't want Brunson doing everything. I mean, we know Jalen's missed a clutch, but you can't force this guy to score 40 or 50 points. You have to get the ball, as the great Hank Stram would say, matriculated across the court and get it down the court quick. Get Josh Hart involved. OG is a monster measuring stick. And definitely, like you said, let's look for those props on Karl Anthony Towns. He's the X factor. If this kid plays healthy and could start pouring in 30 a game, it's going to be a nightmare for the Pacers.
Duane, I like OKC in the West. I just have, even though I think there is still going to be value on Minnesota, I just don't see.
Like you said, with the Edwards props and stuff like that, you can find value anywhere. You have to nitpick it and wait till they get home. They'll play well at home. And not only OKC had trouble on the road.
Not only that, I would take like a game and a half. The series screams 7, but OKC having no home court matters. This series, I have no idea. If you told me Indiana...
Jeff, they will have legs just because of the fact that they did not have to chase Curry around the court.
Remember? No, I 100% agree with that. And Duane, I'll say this on the East side. I have no idea. I'm willing to say that I have no clue. If you tell me Indiana wins the series in 5, might as well. I mean, look, I guess based off what I'm saying is I would take a price on Indiana just because I think it's a pretty dead even series. Even though I will say, going back to last year, even though the Knicks are obviously different than they were a year ago, it took all those injuries on the Knicks side for Indiana to win that series in 7. So if you made me pick, I would take the Knicks, but I do not like laying $1.55. I just do not like laying that sort of price.
Jeff, I fully understand. It's very similar to that Toronto bet that you made. Yeah. I mean, we're looking at 50 plus years of not winning a title. I mean, that's how old I am. The last year was 72, 73. I always say that. I was born in 72. That's the last title the Knicks won. So I cannot fault you for taking the Pacers. You know, it's all about money management when you're gambling. You know, we have all fun with this show, but I'm on the other side of the counter. You have to manage your money. You have to look for the right percentages where you could definitely make some money on these series. Look for the chances Minnesota has at home. Also look for the Pacers, but you hit the nail on the head. They were life and death, and the Knicks were depleted last year in that series, and they were life and death. This Knicks team really turned the corner. That was a massive blowout against the Celtics after suffering a massive blowout in Boston without Tatum. The Knicks reacted very well, and that impressed me. In that it wasn't a close game. That last game, it was a blowout, and they sent the message: "Look, we are here." And then all of a sudden, you got the Celtics scrambling with the excuses. Oh, well, Brown was hurt too. No, he wasn't. I mean, the guy was pouring in points in that game 5 like it was ridiculous. So, I just think that this Knicks team is a little better than last year, like you said, and that should be enough to get by the Pacers. But you have that 52-year history of not winning. So, Jeff, I fully understand the Pacers have a massive chance here. They're a young, hungry team and so well coached.
He's Duane Colucci, NYBookie Duane on the tweets. Every Monday with us here on Sports by the Book. We'll be deeper into these series when we see Duane next week. Actually, maybe we'll have to check in with you, Duane, because Monday's a holiday. So we'll hopefully see you next week. Duane, pleasure as always. Enjoy a calmer night behind the counter, actually.
Yeah, it's just baseball tonight. And let me tell you, that Met-Yankee series was really exciting. My Dodgers, I don't understand. They couldn't beat the Angels, but that happens sometimes in the freeway series. Baseball's looking good this year. That American League Central's impressive. Wow, it's very difficult to handicap. The West, we knew the NL West was going to be monstrous, and the Yankees and Mets are at the top. So it's a good baseball season upcoming and very exciting. As bookmakers, we wind down a little now, like you said, but it's still exciting, and we got some great baseball left to be played. And like we said, that Belmont at Saratoga is going to be off the hook in 3 weeks. Unbelievable. They're going to run 4 days there at Saratoga. You're going to have the best riders and the best horses in the world. I love Saratoga. I know you do too, Jeff. And horse racing has been phenomenal here at the Rampart. I can't thank my patrons enough. It was packed in here to see journalism win the Preakness.
Duane, I do want to ask you really quick because you brought up the Dodgers. Is this a bounce back spot for them? Should I stay away from the Diamondbacks at that plus price with Brandon Pfaadt pitching tonight?
I tell you the truth. I think the Dodgers will bounce back. I mean, Gallen still isn't winning. He lost the other night to Colorado. So, anything is possible here. But it should be a good spot for the Dodgers to bounce back. But this is a rivalry, game without a doubt. Arizona's one of the teams. San Diego and San Francisco, they're all hungry, Alex. You see them 140. You rarely see the Dodgers at a great price like this at home. I would jump on the Dodgers just because the price is so low. Look for a little extra value. If it gets pumped up, Alex, then get on the buyback if you could get 140 on this game.
Duane, thank you very much. We'll see you again next week.
Definitely. I enjoy it always. It's a pleasure with you guys. This is the best sports book. Definitely channel, station, everything. You have to watch us 5 days a week. Unbelievable. the knowledge that you guys have, it's just great to be a part of this show.
Appreciate it as always, Duane. Thanks for the kind words. We'll see you again next week. We are going to take a quick break. Trivia question will go on the bottom. Baseball and more to get to. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Jeff Parles, Alex White, thrilled to be with you. We're actually going to bring our good friend Danny Burke in a few moments of Odd Shopper. But first, Alex, active chat on a Monday with some new names in there as well.
Yes, it is. And I appreciate Vince with some notes here for us. 40 Kid had a nice joke for you. Toronto, the only place where leaves fall in the spring. Charles, welcome to the chat. New here with Sports by the Book. Dean Hilt was jumping in, happy for journalism, jumping in with the horse talk there. And then we have Daryl and Damon giving their picks on who they like coming out in the NBA. Both of them like the T-Wolves, and then one on the Pacers, one on the Knicks. I got to say, I like the T-Wolves too, but I do like your way. We got to look at those MVP.
Got to find a +2.5, +1, plus a game and a half. I don't see Oklahoma City losing, but that is a juicy, juicy price on Minnesota that is readily available. And boy, if it's Minnesota Knicks, boy, what a storyline series you got with that trade where, again, How often do you see a trade like that? Both teams playing the finals would be pretty wild if we got that. All right, let's bring him in, our good friend Danny Burke. Danny Burke 5 on the tweets. Odd Shopper, where you can find Danny's work. DB, it's been a while. How you doing today, buddy?
Doing good, guys. Yeah, it's been a little bit of time, but happy to be back and talk some postseason, both a little bit of basketball and hockey. So, as always, happy to be here with you both.
Not only that, you have some player props as well in baseball that we'll get to a little bit later. But let's start in the NBA. You know what? Just start there in that Western Conference series, Danny, where Game 1 tomorrow, Thunder with only 1 day off, but they're at home, so a little bit different than we've seen in this postseason so far. 7.5 tomorrow, 215 on the early number, but series price-wise, you're pushing $3 on Minnesota as an underdog in this series. What do you like in this series? What are you looking at? Is there anything you want to play right now?
So when I first was stumbling across the odds, kind of like you were alluding to, I mean, the series spread, if you're looking at like +2.5 with Minnesota, was certainly enticing, but then you look at the price of about -160 or north of that, and then that kind of keeps you away from it. And I completely get the value argument of Minnesota based on what we saw from them last year, and we know the tools they have. But what scares me, Jeff and Alex, is if Anthony Edwards has an off night, I mean, who's going to be the other person to step up? You're really putting a lot of weight on Julius Randle to play as well as he did this past series. And remember, that was a inferior Warriors team, especially compared to Oklahoma City, who's had the #1 defense all season and carrying on through the postseason. And then without Steph Curry as well. And I'm not trying to, put down this Minnesota team because I'm a big fan of them. And I think they can make a run in this series and keep it close. But Oklahoma City, while there were times where they didn't look as dominant against Denver, we have to realize you're going up against the best player in the world in Jokic. And perhaps that could be one of those series where, there were some hiccups, but at the end of the day, I mean, that could have been the best thing for them. And they did have some games where they probably should have ended up on top and, ended up falling short. But again, that's not to say that I'm just putting everything here on Oklahoma City. I still think Minnesota is capable of snagging a couple games. What I would probably do is perhaps look for the over 5.5 games as opposed to taking 2.5 with Minnesota on the series spread, or I would rather look to see what happens in game one, probably banking on Oklahoma City to win that spot, and then see where the price is for Minnesota on the series spread if you still have confidence in them, depending on what you saw in game one, and if that's a good enough price. So I'm going to hold off on this one, but I do think Oklahoma City gets the job done. It's just a matter of how close Minnesota can keep it and extend the series, if at all.
Just real quick, pricing-wise, DraftKings has conference MVPs up. If you like Minnesota in this series, and I'll just ask you this, because Anthony Edwards, those are right now Edwards' best number you can get on conference MVP at plus 360. Danny, is there a path for a non-Anthony Edwards Timberwolf to win the conference final MVP if the T-Wolves win this series?
I mean, again, it's got to be Julius Randle is the only other realistically capable person of winning it based on the performance he put on in that last series. If somehow he can carry that over into this matchup against a much better defense and be that X factor and step up on a night when Anthony Edwards may falter, kind of, just be complacent with his offense, because we see that in the postseason sometimes, or he just has an off night. So look, if you're getting 25-1 or better on Randall, which I've seen out there, I mean, again, that would be the next best person to do it, and that's why he's second in line Minnesota wise. But I mean, if we're talking from an actual standpoint of if they win, it's got to be Edwards winning it. So yeah, I mean, it would have to be an incredibly long shot for Randall to be the guy to do enough for them to win the series and win this award.
Danny, let's go over to the East here. Game one is on Wednesday night. Knicks at home, 4-point favorite here at the South Point. No, 4.5 and 223 for game one. But looking at the series prices, New York minus 155, take back for Pacers plus 135. Anything in this series or in game one?
Yeah, I like the Pacers in this series a lot. And this Pacers team has impressed me throughout the course of the season and then heading into the postseason themselves. And look, I understand what this Milwaukee Bucks team was and is, so we still have to take that into account a little bit. But Indiana's been showing us all year that they're capable of making this run in a relatively weaker Eastern Conference. The defense has slowly improved, and we've seen that persist into the postseason. Offensively, we know the scores they have, and especially we know the depth they have, because if you have some of their starters not really making any impact, they've had a lot of those guys coming off the bench and being able to contribute consistently, much like Oklahoma City, not to that same extent, but they have a lot of depth from guys you can rely on. And if Tyrese Halliburton can keep playing the way he's been doing it, I mean, man, he's been unstoppable, especially in clutch moments, which, as we all know, is monumental in the playoffs. New York, on the other side, this is a team where their identity was defense, but their defense took a backseat during the regular season. They've been fine throughout the playoffs, but worth noting. And then offensively, they've really kind of fallen back in the postseason. They're 15th in effective field goal percentage, 10th in points per 100 possessions among all playoff contenders. And this just seems like a team that, again, has their faults, and we see that exposed in the postseason in the lack of depth every single year. I really need to see a bigger effort out of Karl Anthony Towns before I would justify putting a bet on the Knicks, because he didn't really have that much of an impact last series, and I guess you could argue, well, despite that, they still got through. But I think this Pacers team with plus 135 to plus 140 being dealt is the right play to make. And if you're a little hesitant, maybe again, wait till game one. And if they lose, you're going to get even a better price in Indiana. And I still have the utmost confidence with them, especially when they get back at home. Obviously, the issue is playing at MSG, but yeah, I like the Pacers a lot in this Eastern Conference series.
Well, I guess you're taking the plus price on Indiana then with everything you just said, Danny. But
yeah,
going back to that conference final MVP odds real quick, you just take Halliburton in that scenario, or again, Indiana pulls this upset. Is it Halliburton? If it's not Halliburton, who would it be? I guess Siakam would be the only other one that would make any sort of sense, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it would be, Jeff. Siakam at 13-1. And again, in the other series, you're a little bit worried with the big men because, you have Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren, and then you have, Naz Reid, Julius Randle, and Gobert. I mean, all pretty good defenders and tough for a big man to separate himself. on Indiana, I mean, you got Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson kind of emerging back, but you're not too concerned with their defense per se. So that definitely opens up the avenue for Pascal Siakam in the double-digit price. So I would have no issue taking a little flyer there. But again, realistically, and it's reflected in the odds, if Indiana's going to be going through this series, it's going to come via Tyrese Haliburton, realistically.
Let's go and move over to the ice here. Kind of backwards. Florida just finished that series yesterday, and they play already on Tuesday against the Canes here. Carolina is favored in that first game, but Florida, the favorite for the series here at the South Point, $1.30 plus 110 on the Canes. Anything in the Eastern Conference? And are you pretty high on this Panthers team making another run for the third year to the finals?
So I haven't been as crazy in betting hockey this postseason, guys, but I did finally kind of get involved last night and did take a stab with Florida. And seldom do we get a breeze of a hockey bet, but luckily it came through. I'm going on the opposite of them, despite their momentum they may have, because I'm going to take the Hurricanes here. And I get that they've had an easier route this Stanley Cup postseason so far, but plus 105 with the home ice advantage. I'm not saying there's a hangover here with this Panthers team, but obviously we know how tough it is to replicate in hockey. And then Frederik Andersen's been playing his butt off. And is that a product of the teams they've played in the postseason? Perhaps, but he was a little bit better in terms of goals saved above expected throughout the regular season in comparison to Bobrovsky. And then offensively, I mean, they're right there neck and neck. So if you factor in maybe the slight edge to goalie going with Andersen, the Panthers coming off a grueling Game 7 series, turning around immediately, having the target on their back and not the home ice advantage. I just think the plus money's too hard to ignore here with Carolina. So I'll take my chances with them from the series standpoint. Certainly would lean toward them in Game 1. However, haven't bet anything there yet, Alex, but I did take them for the series with the Hurricanes.
Danny, on the west side of things, Edmonton knocks out VGK. Dallas, overtime winner to knock out Winnipeg on Saturday night. Dallas, home ice, but the underdog in this series, plus 105 here at the South Point. That's about the best number you can get in the market. Minus 25 on Edmonton. What are you looking at here in this series?
I don't know if I want to put any money on this series, Jeff. This just seems like it'd be a lot more fun to watch without any skin in it and not stress out, because this thing is just going to be a back and forth battle. And the best way to handicap that would be over 5.5 games. But I think the best price was around like $2 at most books that I saw. So if you want to lay, some steep big, I guess that would be my favorite play. Not that I'm going to do it necessarily, but that's where I think the series is going to head, to 6 or 7 games. And why shouldn't it? I mean, that's indicated by this damn near being a pick 'em at most outlets. I love the Stars team. They've been a team from the past couple of years that I've put a lot of stake in when it's come to the postseason, and they've fallen short. I mean, on paper, they have a lot of weapons, and Ottinger is an outstanding goalie, and we've seen that once again. But it's so hard to get in front of the train that is this Oilers offense, and particularly, as we know, Connor McDavid. So that's why I think I'm going to sit back at least for a little bit, maybe Game 1 or Game 2, and then look to approach it. But again, I mean, the best thing that I would recommend is the series going deep, but it's priced appropriately, unfortunately. So it should be a roller coaster and fun nonetheless. Again, maybe a bit more exciting to watch when I'm not sweating out one side.
I completely agree with that, Danny. I definitely think this is going 7. I would be shocked if the Oilers finish this quickly like they did with the Knights. I mean, the Stars team has been there. They are hungry too. And then they added some pieces like Rantanen and Ottinger, have Ottinger. So I think that's the best way to play this series.
6 games would not surprise me one bit.
Yeah.
Edmonton wrap it up on that regard. Danny, I'll just ask you this before we head over the baseball and a little bit of macro. Mm-hmm. Connor McDavid is plus 380 at FanDuel to win the Conn Smythe. He won it last year when they didn't even win the Stanley Cup. If you like Edmonton to win the Cup, I think that's the only way to do it, even though I will say the way Skinner played those last 2 games, and I know he was awful the first round, got benched, and went on it. That's the only name I'd even remotely consider on the Edmonton side right now, because it feels like if Edmonton wins it, McDavid's going to get the Conn Smythe one way or another, even though I would argue he has not been the best Oiler in this postseason.
I tend to agree with you. Yeah, I'm certainly not as convinced as I would be in I don't even know if the right way to say seasons past, but you're right. I mean, he hasn't been as flashy and as dominant as we saw last year, but you're right. Kind of like based on the principle of it alone, how do you not give it to Connor McDavid if they finally get that monkey off their shoulder? I mean, it seems like, obviously you don't want to say impossible, but it's just one of those things where it shouldn't come down to it based on those type of factors, but realistically that's how it comes to fruition. And yeah, you're getting the better price with him. So if you're a little scared about it not being McDavid, but you really feel confident in the Oilers winning the cup and you want that better price, then yeah, you could take a stab at McDavid and sprinkle a little elsewhere. But yeah, again, it's hard to envision a scenario where the Oilers win the cup and it's not going to McDavid for the Conn Smythe.
All right, Danny, before we get to your two plays in baseball today, player prop wise, I want to just do some macro stuff with you because the American League first, I got to give the Tigers their due. They're the best record in baseball. They're 31-16. Yeah. And look, for people that are paying attention, they haven't gone under the radar. For the general public, I'm sure if you ask someone on the street, hey, who is the best record in baseball? I can guarantee you maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 at most would know Detroit has the best record in baseball. So, Danny, it's as simple as this. How much do you buy Detroit? And if it's not them in the American League, who do you look at right now? Yankees and Mariners, both leading their divisions. The Twins are just playing some insane baseball right now, even though they finally lost the game over the weekend.
Yeah. I do think it's the Tigers' division to lose, and that's not saying anything crazy. They had the lead right now. But my point is, yeah, I still have the utmost confidence that they end up winning this AL Central division. I would gloss over Minnesota. They inevitably fall short despite having a great pitching rotation. Their offense is going to slow down, and they're going to start losing some bigger games on the road against superior competition. I mean, that typically happens with them middle of July, late summer. The Guardians obviously are going to be the next attractive look, but I'm not really that high on them this year. I still think that the Kansas City Royals have a lot of room to make some noise. They've been underperforming to begin this season. It seems like every time I wager on them, I'm on the wrong side of them, Jeff. It's one of those classic things, but there's a lot of talent on that Kansas City team. The pitching is there. The offense needs to get there. And I think they will be a team that once we get into these warmer, consistent summer days, they are going to start thriving. So again, it's not to say that I would take a stab with Kansas City to win the division because I still feel a lot of confidence in that Tigers team, but maybe to make the playoffs bet or just on a game-to-game basis looking to wager, Kansas City should be the next team in the AL Central to start making some noise.
Let's stick here in the American League with one of the games, one of the props that you like. Angels coming off a sweep of the Dodgers and the Athletics here. Jose Soriano for the Angels and JT Ginn, who we just saw last week doing a rehab at the Aviators. What's your prop here? Which pitcher are you looking at?
Yeah, well, first of all, how the hell about the Angels sweep of the Dodgers? I mean, that was remarkable. I was the sucker who went for the Dodgers yesterday on the run line thinking, perfect opportunity right here against the lowly Angels. Gonsolin's been all right. You're facing a sweep. And no, the Angels are just on cloud 9 right now. But I am going to be fading Soriano under 4.5 Ks. Got it at about minus $140. So I know a lot of places have it steeper than that. So I really wouldn't, venture to go too crazy above a minus 150 price here. But the Athletics have been great against right-handed pitching, and sure, they get a little benefit from the stadium they're playing in. But when you look at their strikeout rate, they have the 3rd lowest in Major League Baseball, just 19%. Soriano's got some solid stuff in terms of his strikeouts and the movement on his pitches, but he does have a higher barrel rate and hard hit rate. So if the Athletics can get to him early, I think it's going to be a shorter outing for Soriano. So I do like that under 4.5. And again, it was mainly because of the price that I was able to get versus where it was elsewhere in the market. So, don't go too nuts with it. And then another prop that I had, Alex, was Christopher Sanchez under 5.5 hits allowed against the Rockies. We know how atrocious Colorado is. I love to see it because my favorite bet before the year started was the Rockies to have the worst record. I know the White Sox are going to make it a little difficult, maybe the Marlins, but Rockies doing a pretty good job so far, and hopefully they do a good job of not getting any hits against one of the better pitchers in the league as of this moment in Sanchez. He's been outstanding. His ERA is sub-3, and his FIP xFIP, is pretty low too. The Rockies have the 2nd highest K rate against southpaws at 28%, 62 weighted runs created plus against lefties. Look, you know how bad they are, and hopefully they're bad again tonight. So I think Sanchez keeps them under 5.5 hits.
Well, I'll just say this, Danny, just to touch on this game real quick, and then I have one last question before we let you go. The new strategy I'm employing now, when Colorado plays at home.
Cocktail,
no, it's a different one now. The other one made not only no sense, but was mathematically horrific. But Danny, I'll just say this: when Colorado plays at home against a competent offense, tonight the team total on the Phillies is 6.5, juice to the under. Kyle Freeland, other than Dollander, who's the only guy I really don't want to go after, even though he struggled at home. All these other guys are they're gas cans. You light them up every single time out. I'm just going to take the Phillies over 6.5 runs, team total, not even mess around with the full game total. It's more than possible that Sanchez shuts down an incompetent Rocky offense. But that's the strategy I'm going to employ. Competent offense at Coors, I'm going over. I'm just curious when the books start making these 7.5, 8.5, and then it's like, oh man, we're really asking for something crazy here. I know 7 is still a huge number, but Philly's more than capable of doing that.
No, they are. And it's just like something, from what I'm used to betting these team totals at about 4.5, right, Jeff? That makes even 5.5 was always a stretch for me. And 6.5 just seems so hard to do. But I, of course, would not talk you out of that. How could you really argue against it based on the pitchers that Colorado's thrown out there? And then, like you said, the capable offense of Philadelphia. The one slight trepidation, and again, very slight because it's still Coors Field and, the Rockies are still the Rockies. Freeland's still Freeland. The wind did seem to be blowing in fairly heavily, from what we're accustomed to at Coors Field. So that would maybe be the one reason why I would be a tad hesitant. But again, I would never talk anybody out of, or bet the under in that situation. It would just be the over or stay away based on how bad Colorado's been. And again, beating the dead horse, but how good this Philly offense is.
And I will say also, Ryan just pointed this out, Skeens was pitched against the Phillies yesterday. So a little bit different equality here today in Kyle Freeland. All right, Danny, before we let you go, power rate the top. I'm not going to give you any teams here, but give me the top 4 in the National League, Danny.
Oof. All right. I'm taking bias out of this. I promise, guys. I promise. All right. The Los Angeles Dodgers still at the top. They got to be at the top. I'm going to go. I'm going Phillies number 2. I'll put the Cubs at 3, and that's barring and assuming that, and it's a big assumption based on what they've done or lack thereof, that they're going to get pitching at some point. And then 4, I will go, it's tough. It's a toss-up between your Mets and then the Padres right now. I'm going to go with the Padres, and it's not that I got anything deeply against your Mets and you're a fan, Jeff. I just still am a little scared about the lack of depth with their pitching. But again, you know more about their front office than I do and what they may or may not be doing throughout the course of the season. If they can add another arm or two in there, be feeling a lot better. But that NL East obviously is very tough. Not to say the NL West isn't, but the Padres have been building up for this for a while. And I like their pitchers as slightly better than the Mets, or more than slightly better. But I like this Padres rotation. So that's why they get the slight nod, rather, is the 4th team.
Yeah, I think you're a little high on the Cubs. That's the one of those 5.
I mean, it's their offense, right? And then the injuries have killed them. But again, it's a big assumption that if they're getting more pieces to add, especially in the bullpen. So there's an asterisk there because their offense is just unreal right now.
Their offense
is the big asterisk.
Right now, Cubs, 2nd most runs in baseball, only the Dodgers with more. And also to Phillies very quietly have really stabilized the ship where it looked like Philly media wanted to throw Robbie Thompson into the Delaware after they got swept by the Mets. Phillies are only a half game behind New York right now in that NL East. That was 5.5 about 2 weeks ago. So Phillies played much better ball at the moment. There we go.
Yeah, and that's a team, again, who I like, before the year and think that they were going to be overlooked a tad bit because it's still a tougher division. The Mets had all the noise. So, yeah, you're right. Good point out because they've been able to stabilize despite having a little rocky start. So still think they're a premier team without question.
Danny Burke 5 on the tweets, Odd Shopper, where you can find Danny's work. As always, Danny, it's a pleasure, man. Thanks for hanging with us today.
Absolutely. Anytime, guys. Take care.
Thank you, Danny.
We're going to take the shortest of breaks. When we get back, rapid fire baseball and whiteboard to end a Monday show right here on Sports by the Book.
Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day. The friendly ticket writers are happy to help, and it's conveniently located next to the famous Del Mar Deli, where you'll find supersized portions of delicious deli items like roast beef, pastrami, and Reuben sandwiches, or soups, salads, and pizza, plus spectacular desserts fit for a king. And right next door is the race book, over 150 seats, each with its own TV screen. There are 16 interactive player terminals, so you can bet right from your seat.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Jeff Parles, Alex White. The last 7 minutes or so for us here on a Monday. And we go into baseball, Alex, and we're going to begin in the National League Central. Pirates, who have just had a miserable season all the way across the board, even got worse news yesterday with Jared Jones needing Tommy John. So his season is done before it even starts. So they're back at home after getting beat up in Philadelphia over the weekend. Mitch Keller, Nick Lodolo, Reds very quietly playing well right now. Third place in the National League Central. Minus 15 on Lodolo. Even on Pittsburgh, total of 8 at PNC here tonight, Alex.
First time they swept the Guardians in 13 years, The Reds there. So what do these two teams have in common? Really good pitching. Can't really hit. So I love the under in this one. I like both of these pitchers going with Lodolo and Mitch Keller. I'm going under first 5 innings, though. It is 4, juice to the over. So it should be a good price there on that first 5. I'm also leaning, because I'm trying to pick a underdog of the day. I'm leaning to the Pirates. I think it's probably at the bottom of the list, though, because the Reds could have a letdown after that sweep of the Guardians, but I really just can't trust this Pirates offense. Yeah,
this has been, a weird year for Keller, who seemingly turned the corner last year, has really struggled to begin here in 2025. All right, we go to Dodgers and Diamondbacks next. Dodgers inexplicably slept at home by the Angels over the weekend. Got some weird stuff in the rivalry weekend. That was the weirdest of all. First time the Angels have swept a series ever at Dodger Stadium with that a 3-game series, I should say. Minus 45 right now at the moment on Logan Knack. Brandon Pfaadt is up to plus 130. Total 9.5 on this one at Dodger Stadium, Alex.
Lean to the Diamondbacks here. Like I was talking about with Duane, is it a bounce back spot, or are they just kind of going through it right now, which we know every team does in this long season? So lean to the D-backs, but I really like the over. That is making the board over 9.5. Is the best you can get out there. I like both of these offenses. And as much as I like Brandon Pfaadt, I do think the Dodgers will be able to get to him slightly, and then the bullpen as well. Landon Knack, he's got a median of 2 earned runs, 4 hits. So I also think this Diamondbacks offense will be able to get to him as well.
Going next to Tampa, Steinbrenner Field, Rays and Astros, Pepio and Gordon. Minus 40 on Tampa, total of 9 plus 25 on the take back on the Astros.
Trying to find reasons to bet the Astros. They have struggled hitting-wise on the road all year long, but they did figure it out a little bit against the Rangers. Had that game with 6 runs. Then they have 2 that are not enough, though, and then 3 yesterday. So it's a lean to the Astros. Nothing definite yet. I did add like you said, Phillies team total. I like that full game over. With the Phillies and the struggles we've seen with their bullpen, I think that we could get even a little help there with the Rockies. So check the wind, of course, but I am going to go over that 10 for that game.
Yeah, Phillies pull over 6.5 runs team total. I just don't even want to mess around with the Rockies. Just give me all the offense for the Phillies. Even though over 10 I mean, the fact that it's 10 at Coors is not bad either. Yeah, you can do that as well, even with the wind potentially blowing in. Minnesota and Cleveland, real quick. I just want to throw this out there, Alex. 7.5 on this one. Twins back at home after having their win streak snapped. I like Minnesota minus 135 with Bailey Ober against Allen, who a guy I just love going after. Guardians reality starting to step in a little bit for the Guards. I thought they played over their heads to begin this season. I think we're going to see a little bit of regression over the next few weeks, back to 500, maybe even under 500 for Cleveland. I like Minnesota here tonight.
I would too. That's the only way I would play this game here. I mean, looking at their offensive numbers too, the Twins have just been much better than this Guardians team. So I think 135 is a good number.
Mets and Red Sox in Fenway tonight. Sox at home, a dog, plus 110. This is a 15-cent move from the overnight. They bet Boston. Mets open $1.40, which I think was a little bit strong. But now at minus 125, I like Kodai Senga, a big pitching advantage here tonight. So I do like New York on the road at Fenway, minus 125.
I was just thinking to myself, because I crossed this one off, I think that is a cheap price for the Mets here, even though we're on the road. But thinking to myself, I mean, looking at their last 7 starts, the Red Sox offense looks a whole lot better, but I really like those pitchers that the Mets just faced with the Yankees. So can't really take too much from that. Might be a good spot for them to bounce back here. Definitely have the starting pitcher advantage here with Senga and how he has been this year.
Red Sox, again, struggling over the weekend, losing 2 out of 3, and they needed an epic comeback on Saturday in order to get the one off of Atlanta. All right, let's go to St. Louis and Detroit real quick. Just want to bring this up because they're getting a really nice, juicy price on Detroit on the road. Now, we've talked about it, St. Louis, arguably the best home team in baseball so far this year, Sonny Gray and Gunther on the other side for the Tigers. It is a nice little pitching advantage, but plus 140 is a pretty nice price on Detroit if you want to take it. I can't fault you if you do.
Very, very tempting here. And I mean, I do like Sonny Gray, but I definitely think this Tigers offense can get to him. His median earned runs is 3 and 5 hits. And the Tigers, I mean, we've seen them have these openers and still find ways to win those games. So I'm with you. It'd only be a play on that dog.
Last one on the board, San Francisco Giants Royals, a 2014 World Series redux. Lefties tonight, Bubic and Ray. San Francisco over the weekend took swept that 3-game series, including the back-to-back one-run wins on the last 2 days. Alex, JR in the chat likes the Royal team total under tonight. I can't really blame him on that. This might be an under game with a chilly night coming in San Fran.
That's what's on the board here. Royals, Giants, I'm going under 4 in the first 5, but I like the full game as well, especially I like both of these bullpens, so I might have to throw that up there too. But really, I mean, the Royals, like DB was saying, they've got the pitching, have one of the best runs allowed, but man, 29th in runs this year. So
wind is blowing out, but again, this is a ballpark that neutralizes the outblowing wind. That's just how they constructed it, right on the bay there in San Francisco. All right, we're gonna go right into it because we got to get out a little bit earlier than usual here today. Alex is gonna put the final touches on the whiteboard, but before Alex gets her whiteboard fully set, hoops wise in trivia. Which person was one of only 5 NBA players to win both the NBA MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year, who was born on this date in 1976? It's the one and only Big Ticket. Hey, before this, Minnesota, the only conference final appearance they had was with Kevin Garnett. So KG, happy birthday to KG. Kind of gets lost in NBA history. What a great player he was. The only other players to have those awards, also, the Admiral, David Robinson, MJ, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Giannis. So pretty darn good company. He'll be 5 of 5 Hall of Famers once Giannis makes his way into the MVP, into the Hall of Fame later in his career. Nick Zanzone on the board. Yet again, a nice win for Nick here today in trivia. All right, Alex, whiteboard's up. Ready to roll here on a Monday.
So these are my official plays up here. That was just for myself, and I don't want to erase it. So at the top, I like 5 totals, 4 really, but I'm doubling up on one game. Reds and Pirates under 4. I'm just going with the first 5 in that game. I don't trust the bullpens. Phillies and Rockies, I'm going under the 10 at Coors there. D-backs and Dodgers over 9.5. And then the Royals and the Giants, I'm going under 4 for the first 5, and I'm also going under 7.5 full game. Bottom ones, those are just my potential underdogs. Have not bet any yet or picked one for the day.
All totals officially today for Alex on the whiteboard. All right. That's what we got. That's a Monday. Kenny's back with us tomorrow. We have conference finals in the NBA and the NHL starting. Full card of baseball as well. Shout out to the crew, Ryan, Drew Dog, Vince, and Sean and Jerry, who are both off here today on a Monday. Enjoy your off days, guys. Alex, good luck.
Thank you. You too.
Let's go 3-1 at least here on the 4. I'm Jeff Parles. She's Alex White. We'll see you again tomorrow. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.